Okay, so welcome to today's video tutorial. Today we're going to be looking at this project. I'm not sure how you pronounce it, innate or Nathan, or I don't know. Let me know in the comments. But well, first off, we're gonna turn this project into a unikernel, but I wanted to kind of use this tutorial as an example of to kind of like really address the question that we get every now and then: how hard would it be to turn my project into a unikernel? It's a very common question, and sometimes when people say my project, they're really referring to projects that they didn't write, but projects that they want to use. So this is a classic example, right? And I give this answer where it's like, well, it depends. And it depends because if you didn't write the project, there's probably like all sorts of little gotchas that you might run into that you might not really understand what to deal with. Whether it's environment variables or whether it's just how does this code work, or and it's especially problematic if you're not familiar with the language that the project is written in. That's what this tutorial is really about, showing how we go into projects like this, because I myself, this is written in JavaScript. I myself am not a JavaScript expert. JavaScript popularity showed up in the past 10 years. I was doing other things, so you throw a random project at me, I probably have no clue what it is, and it just takes diving into. So anyways, this is what this tutorial is about, is just how do you actually dive into a project that you don't really know anything about. It's a good question. Let's get started. So it says start, it says npx innate in. Now before this video, I didn't even know what npx was. Turns out it's actually kind of a cool little tool that I think would make a lot of sense to put into a unikernel workflow. So we can go in. I went ahead and created this in test directory just to kind of play with things. But if we do npx innate in, says, do we want to install? Sure. So I'm installing locally, right? Okay, so welcome back after I cut that little install process out. Basically, it's up and running, right? Even tried to open a browser. So where did this install? Because in this directory, we actually don't have anything. There's this little config.json that I've put in here, and I'll show you what's in there in a second. But there's nothing else here, right? So what we can do is we can just start looking for this program, and you can see when I grep for innate in, it's pointing here. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so this is obviously our stuff, but if we kind of zoom out a little bit, you can kind of see that npx is storing everything in here, and you can just kind of confirm what's in this package JSON here. So yeah, this is clearly what we want. Now, if we're going to create a package out of this, or perhaps we just want to make it easier to use, I'm just going to copy all this stuff out. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to make a directory here. I'm just going to copy all this stuff into here. All right, so we've got that. Now what I can do, and I'll show you what's in our config here. What I've done is pointed the args at a node modules init bin init, because that's actually what was running up here, right? If we look more at this, we have our directories, which I copied in A. Because I've done this before, there was a innate in directory created. And we'll copy that guy over, show you what's inside of there. So they have like, SQLite database, the Git. I'm not sure why that's there. Some other stuff, but we copied it over. And then I set this base volume size to 900. So why did I do that? Well, so nanos by default only use slightly more disk space than what is expected from the program and whatever you throw on the file system. However, if you do a du-sh on this A folder, you can see that we're already at 880 megs. So it's, it's not lightweight project here. So let's just add a little bit more space to kind of get us over the bump. And in a prod setting, you might even have a volume that's like many gigabytes, which is fine. It doesn't need to match the image size. So now that we have this made, we can go ahead and try to run this with ops. So let's do ops package load iberg / 020.5.0 config JSON dash port. What would we have? 5678. I think this should work. All right, so it did pop up, but then it crashed. Why? Because it's trying to fork off a child process here. Now, this is a very unikernel specific thing. Sometimes when you see this, it's going to take a patch. Sometimes when you see this, it indicates that you need to separate your services into other unikernels. Sometimes this is like really straightforward. Sometimes this is not so straightforward. But again, not really knowing what the program here is actually doing, we have to dive into it. So let's go ahead and dive into it. We look at the stack trace, and like I know the problem is probably not in like Node itself. It's probably in the code that I'm using this NA in. So I'm only really going to look at this. Let's pop open this file real quick. And it says like line 199, init source, where was it? So already you can kind of see that the paths are different here too. Simply because you have the TypeScript versus JavaScript. We pop open here. It says line 199. So we go down here. Again, our trace is a little bit messed up, but if we scroll up a little bit, this is clearly what's going on here. Is this wait exec deal, and it's just grabbing a version if this front end service is set. But you know what? Since we're just exploring, we can kind of just comment this out. And there's other things you could do here too. You could like perhaps set a version or do something else. I know this is gonna work because I've already tried this. In another session, maybe there's other debugging, but we go ahead and save that. We pop this guy back up, and now it's running, and we can try to curl it. Now, obviously, being a project written in JavaScript is going to be JavaScript heavy, and so you can see the curl works. Obviously, it really does want a browser, so this is really just a test. But this is kind of how you go about dealing with projects like this when you're not actually a part of that project. And so, people run into the same thing with Docker files. People run into the same thing when they're trying to port into a different cloud or whatever. This is just kind of a process that one goes through. I hope this cleared up some questions on, how we approach things like this, and how it really does depend upon the context and your relationship to the code that you want to run. Till next time, bye.